I think Bivol would fight you. I think Benavidez would fight you. Do you believe that at this stage of his career, Canelo Alvarez would ever choose to fight you?
I mean, to be honest with you, I just feel like it's too big of a fight to leave on the table. I think, what that fight represents, two great Mexicans going at it, two great world champions, the best world champions of their era going at it. So I feel like, it has to happen, eventually. It's too big of a fight to not make happen. If it doesn't happen, that's going to be a shame. We left a great fight on the table, but at the end of the day, if I was Canelo Alvarez, I wouldn't want to fight me, David Benavidez, a Mexican monster, either.
David Benavidez gives a surprisingly honest take on why his long-awaited fight with Canelo Alvarez never happened. Speaking with Stephen A. Smith, he made it clear this is one of the matchups he wants most, and one the public has been begging to see for years.
If you had to pick 3 fights that you want more than anything in your career before it's over, sooner than later, what would those 3 fights be?
The top 3 fights that I want for my career, and I honestly feel like we can make it happen. The next 3 fights is me versus Dimitri Bivol, me versus Artur Beterbiev, and me versus Canelo Alvarez. I think there's so much hype behind all 3 of these fights that we have to make them happen, and I think it's a possibility we can make it happen.
The gloves came off when the conversation turned to fear. Benavidez didn't shy away from calling hesitation the real story for Canelo, insisting that a fighter with nothing to hide would have already jumped at the payday and the chance to make a statement. With Canelo's past struggles against bigger opponents, Benavidez framed himself as the kind of threat that style simply can't solve.
So the way I've seen him handle my presence is he's definitely scared of me. If you have a fighter talking so much trash in front of you, why don't you make an example of him to the world? Beat me in the ring and make a whole lot of money. But Canelo Alvarez, as you can see from every time he fights a guy that's big with power, like Bivol, and he's not able to suppress these fighters as much as he's able to suppress the little fighters. So he sees a lot of things in me that he can't stop. Not only does he see speed, does he see power, but he sees a lot of heart.
He added that the version of himself stepping forward now is sharper and more polished, far more dangerous than before. Every outing, he explained, adds another layer of confidence and skill, and he's convinced the gap between them has only widened in his favor as he approaches his physical prime.
That's I know for a fact that he sees in me. At the end of the day, he should have took the fight with me way back then, because if he had a chance to beat me, it would have been back then. He has no chance of beating me now, especially now. I'm getting all this confidence. I'm stepping into my prime. I'm able to deal with these bigger shows better. I'm able to thrive in these shows. I'm able to. Every time I fight, I'm always winning by a significant amount. So I'm learning my craft better and better each and every single fight. I'm gaining more confidence every single fight, and like I said, I really want to go in there and hurt people. I'm not a boxer. I'm a warrior, and I go in there.
As for what comes next, Benavidez kept his focus squarely on the road ahead at light heavyweight. With a title run sitting at the center of his plans, he framed championship gold as the real bargaining chip that would finally force the issue. He believes he'll finally have the power to make this fight happen on his own terms.
Everything that's happening in my career, I'm in a great position in every single way. I wasn't going to go down to 168, but now if Canelo wants to come up, then I got the WBC world title, 175. After I beat Bivol, I'm going to have all belts. So after that happens, now I'm the one who has the power. Now I'm the one. Canelo said he doesn't fight. He fights for greatness. He fights for titles. Well, let me go pick up all the titles, and let's come back into the table and talk.
Benavidez circled back to a moment that still stings. Canelo leaving the arena ahead of his headline bout. He didn't hide his frustration, floating the theory that maybe he'd made his rival nervous enough to head for the exit, all while doubling down on how confident he is in his own abilities inside the ring.
He left before your fight? Canelo did.
Yeah, he left before. I think he seen Munguia's fight, and then he just took off. But
what's his beef with you? What, I know that you wanted it, but what? You're there. You're the main event. Why not stick around and watch the fight?
I don't know, man. I think it's just I think there's like a civil war between Mexicans and Mexican Americans.
Digging deeper into what's really driving the friction, Benavidez painted the rivalry as something bigger than boxing, a divide he described as almost a cultural standoff between fighters. He revealed that some critics back home have questioned his identity altogether, adding another layer of personal weight to what's already become a heated rivalry.
Everybody says I'm not Mexican. There's some people from Mexico that they say I'm not Mexican enough, this and that. So I there's just like a rivalry between us. I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, it shouldn't even be like that. At the end of the day, we could just give the fans what they want to see, give them a great fight, and then we could both go home to our families. And that's really as easy as it could be. But I think, a lot of people, they're not, other people, they're not as confident in themselves as I am confident in myself.
When the conversation turned to whether the fight could actually happen, Benavidez struck a more measured tone. He maintains that he's rightfully earned the opportunity, yet admitted there's no guarantee it ever comes together, pointing out that both of their careers are currently headed down separate paths.
No, I'm just talking right now. You know what I mean? I think I've deserved that. I mean, I've earned that. If I don't get that fight, at least I could talk about it like I'm the bad man, you know what I mean? So I don't think that fight's ever gonna happen, to be honest with you. But
I don't think it would be smart. I mean, honestly, you're going in two completely different directions at this point. I don't think it would be smart for him.
Yeah, no, but look, at the end of the day, bro, we're just happy. We're happy with everything that we've had in our career up to this point, and now I'm just gonna take over. Then just plain and simple. And I'm not going to take over by just taking over the date. I'm getting the toughest and hardest fight.
Turning the spotlight back on himself, Canelo pushed back against the constant pressure to chase whoever's next in line. He pointed out this isn't new. Throughout his career, the narrative has shifted from one name to another, proving that the goalposts never stop moving. Beat one challenger, he explained, and the conversation simply resets around someone else.
Now the fans will say, what about Benavidez? What about this guy? What about... And you're like, there's always going to be someone.
I always been in that situation.
Yeah.
Always been in that situation, so it's nothing strange for me. No, when it's Cotto, Mayweather, they talking about that. Callum Smith, Triple G. Man, a lot of names out there. When I beat them, then the other name come. Right now is Benavidez.
From there, he addressed the Benavidez talk head-on, describing his rival as practically a heavyweight who just happens to compete at 175 pounds. In his eyes, the size difference alone makes the matchup lopsided, arguing that the real window for that fight had already closed back when both men shared a weight class and Benavidez held a title, which would have made for a fair and evenly matched contest.
He's a heavyweight. He's a heavyweight fighting in 175 or no, cruiserweight or something. But he's a heavyweight. It's not fair.
What a fight that would have been, maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Was it ever close?
When I turn Undisputed, if he will be a champion at that point, that's the correct time to do the fight. But he wasn't. And he was fighting in 168 at that point. But he wasn't a champion. So, that was...
Canelo didn't hold back when explaining why the door on that fight closed. He pointed to his own resume at 168, reminding everyone that he faced every top name in the division before turning the question back on Benavidez, asking why he never stepped up to face those same opponents when the timing actually made sense.
I fought every champion at the division. I say to myself, why he never fight those champions? And then if he was a champion at that point, I fight him because my goal was being Undisputed. So right now it's just impossible. It's impossible. He can fight with the heavyweights. You know what I mean?
You're talking about him fighting Usyk, right?
Yeah. So, but I understand. Why he's calling me out or they are calling me out, but it's fine.
And this is where things get interesting. While Benavidez has spent plenty of time accusing Canelo of ducking, a growing number of fans and analysts, including Max Kellerman, are now turning that same question back on him, pointing to his own situation with the highly anticipated Jai Opetaia clash as a matchup he has yet to fully address.
The problem is Benavidez is now using the same excuse to avoid fighting Opetaia
as Canelo used to avoid fighting Benavidez. Well, he doesn't really have anything for me yet. He has to build himself up. What does he really bring to the table? I'm looking for legacy fights. Canelo's chasing sanctioning body belts and all that stuff, but it was all nonsense. And Canelo, who's never ducked anyone in his career, except Benavidez at super middleweight, was wrong. And Benavidez should have gotten his shot. And right now, I believe Benavidez is wrong, and he should fight Jai Opetaia, the cruiserweight champion of the...
Mike pushed back with a more nuanced take, acknowledging the boxing argument while reframing the real issue. He argued that Benavidez's star power and drawing ability are what actually put him in control here, not just his record. Kellerman wasn't completely convinced, countering that it's the exact same logic Canelo once relied on, brushing aside the resume argument as business rather than merit.
Boxing-wise and accomplishment-wise, you are right. What Shady, I believe, is saying is Benavidez is a much bigger name. He's a much bigger attraction.
He is a bigger star, therefore he is in the driver's seat to an extent. The point is, the same argument he's using against Canelo, where he ducked Canelo can turn around and say, no, it was business, you weren't where you needed to be yet, right? Meanwhile, he was the number one. Those were the two best guys. Canelo didn't fight the other best guy.
Using the same logic.
He is doing the same thing. So if he wants to do this to Opetaia, he has to stop complaining about.
Kellerman circled back to drive the point home, arguing that Benavidez can't have it both ways. If he's going to lean on the idea that Opetaia doesn't have enough legacy or the right hardware, then he has to stop complaining about Canelo altogether, since that's the exact same business logic Canelo once used to sidestep him.
I gotta give you credit, Max, you're right, because Canelo said, well, guess what, Benavidez, if you would not have gotten stripped of that title, I would have fought you. Now Benavidez is saying, Jai, you don't have a belt. You have a championship, but you don't have a sanctioning body belt. So it is the same, it's the same argument, though.
He has something so much bigger than that. He is.
Oh, then that's, that's the big belt.
That's the big one.
Is it like them trying to just marinate it? For a bigger
All I know is
fight?
Benavidez is always looking for that smoke everywhere. Now he gets to cruiserweight and doesn't.
Opetaia weighed in on the standoff himself, making it clear that, from where he's sitting, the fight is simple to put together. He didn't hide his frustration with the excuses he's been hearing, suggesting that Benavidez might quietly be steering toward a different, perhaps more calculated path with his career.
Man, that fight's easy to make on our side. You know what I mean? I've been ready. I've been, I'll just hear excuses and this and that, Buzz, reach out. How bad do you want to fight? How bad do you want to be undisputed cruiserweight? That's an easy fight to make. Yeah. There's all these little excuses and stuff, but it is what it is, man. I think he's going to take a different path. And I think he's going to take a smarter path, to be honest.
Do you think he doesn't want the fight?
Pressed further on whether Benavidez genuinely wants the fight, Opetaia admitted he couldn't speak to his rival's true intentions, noting that a fighter who's moved up through multiple weight classes the way Benavidez has more options available. Still, he pointed out that with both men holding major hardware, the matchup makes perfect sense on paper, ultimately leaving the final decision in Benavidez's hands.
I don't know if my opinion is. Well,
I'm asking.
For me, as a fan, I'd love to see the fight.
Yeah, but do you think he doesn't want the fight?
I don't know. I think Benavidez is a fighter. He's obviously jumped up in weights.
Well, why wouldn't he want to become undisputed? Yeah. He's got both belts. I got two belts. I got the Ring magazine. Why wouldn't he take the fight?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he?
But I guess your opinion,
I suppose he's got some big fights to make, and there's a lot of weight division. If he can make it, I see the business side of it. You know what I mean? It makes sense to do.
Circling back to the ducking argument, Shawn Porter and Shawn Zittel stepped in to set the record straight, explaining that Team Benavidez has actually been pursuing other major fights, and that much of the confusion simply comes down to communication getting lost between camps. They stressed that silence often gets mistaken for avoidance, when it's really just how negotiations tend to
and Benavidez. There was a lot of talk on social media that Team Benavidez is ducking Jai Opetaia, right? And so after seeing a lot of that talk and seeing the stories by Boxing Scene, shout out to the great Lance Pugmire and to the Ring magazine, talking about, well, apparently Benavidez got offered an Opetaia fight, but ultimately still wants to pursue a Canelo fight. And I'm thinking, okay, but we're not hearing from, and Samson Lukowicz did talk about, well, David doesn't want to fight for a Zuffa belt, and David said that after he beat Zerto. But I wanted to hear more from Team
17. Digging into the business side, they revealed that no formal offer for a Benavidez fight ever actually landed on Team Benavidez's desk, adding that Opetaia was already being linked to a different opponent, Noel Mikhailian, around that same stretch. That timing alone, they argued, undercuts the idea that Benavidez was the one standing in the way.
So, I don't know if it's fair to say Benavidez is ducking Opetaia when they never got an offer. And actually, the fight that's been in the works for months is Noel Mikhailian. You remember Noel Mikhailian and Opetaia had a face-off photo after the inaugural Zuffa event, or it might have been the second Zuffa show, but I think it was the first one. And then a couple weeks ago, it was being reported that Mikhailian and Opetaia are closing in on a fight. So that's been the fight in the works for a while, not making an offer to David Benavidez to fight Opetaia for the cruiserweight.
Turning to the physical matchup itself, Shawn broke down what makes Opetaia such a tricky test, pointing to his place among the sport's elite cruiserweights, his athletic frame, and the kind of size and skill combination that would give any opponent problems. They agreed that few fighters at that weight bring the same blend of reach, power, and craft all at once.
Well, that's what Jose Sr. says, but he is the best cruiserweight in the world. And he's, unlike David, who's still a little soft at 196. Opetaia is built, athletic, punches hard, southpaw, has good feet. I'm picking Benavidez against the field, but these are extremely, Bivol and Opetaia in particular, with their skill and their movement,
the amount of everything that they have
is very difficult
in terms of size, but also what they bring with that size.
But that guy's a special talent.
Yes.
Jose took a more skeptical view of Opetaia's resume, arguing that he simply doesn't have the elite level experience or star power to justify the hype, even going as far as calling him a complete unknown to the Mexican fan base compared to other dangerous names out there. He suggested that name value matters just as much as skill when it comes to building a fight fans actually want to see.
With you, Opetaia, I think he gets hurt every fight he fights. He gets hurt with fighters that are not even known. I think he needs a little bit more experience, and I'm gonna say the same thing like David Morrell. Everybody said that he was the next big thing and that he was gonna make David look like an amateur, this and that. You know, he doesn't have the experience that David has. I think he is going to be better in about 3-4 years more. You know, I think he's lacking off experience a little bit more. Don't get me wrong, he's a good fighter. He is going to be a great fighter. But right now, he doesn't have the experience that David has.
He also pointed to the promotional complications surrounding the cruiserweight scene, highlighting Opetaia's ties with Zuffa as a major obstacle to putting together a title fight with any real momentum behind it. From a business standpoint, he argued that connection makes the entire matchup far less appealing to put together. It's the kind of complication, he noted, that can quietly derail a fight.
I don't know how this is going to go now with him with Zuffa and the titles and all that. That complicates everything, you know, at the end of the day. I don't know if they're going to strip him or what's going to happen, to be honest with you. So I don't see ourselves fighting for the Zuffa belt right now. So what are we going to fight for? You know, does it make sense? So I'm hoping that they don't strip him, all the guys from Zuffa, because they're just representing Zuffa, I think, in my opinion. But I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, I'm just wondering what's going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're only representing one belt.
Shifting away from the ducking debate, Bradley offered his own take on how a fight with Jai Opetaia would actually play out, backing Benavidez to get past Opetaia. He pointed to Benavidez's ability to grind opponents down and drag them into deep waters, framing it as the kind of pressure that eventually reveals whether a fighter's heart can truly hold up.
David Benavidez beat Jai Opetaia. Hell yeah, he beat Opetaia. Oh, I'ma double down. He gonna beat Opetaia. I double down on that one. He gonna beat Opetaia. See, Opetaia got good feet. Yeah, he can box, but he can be drugged into a fight. And if you know anything about David Benavidez, just like he did with Ramirez, he's the one of those guys that's gonna test your heart. He gonna test what you have in here. And once he go to Jai's and he tests what he has in here, Jai gonna lose his shit. Jai ain't gonna be boxing and moving around.
Breadman turned the focus to Benavidez's ability to move comfortably between light heavyweight and cruiserweight, making it clear that he still favors him against most of the division. That said, he was quick to point out Opetaia's size and explosiveness as the kind of combination that could genuinely test that versatility.
Yes, I do. I think he beats all of them. I think he beats Bivol, Beterbiev. I'm not as sure if he beat Opetaia because he's such a big guy and he's explosive, but I'm more comfortable picking David to beat him. The one guy that I think will give David some real trouble is Usyk at heavyweight. I don't know if he could beat Usyk.
From there, Breadman zeroed in on what makes Opetaia so physically unique, describing him as an athlete operating on another level entirely. He cautioned that Benavidez would need to stay sharp against his speed and lightning-quick reflexes, along with the kind of powerful southpaw left hand that can change a fight in an instant.
Well, Opetaia is big, fast, and explosive. And David has good defense, but he's not unhittable. So the fact that David started out at 168 and Opetaia started out at 200, Opetaia, you know, I didn't think Zittel could do anything with David because he's just too slow getting off, man. You know what I mean? Like, everything is not about speed, man, but when the speed difference is that big, you gotta have some kind of like masterful timing or jab or something to offset that. He's just too...
Looking back for context, Breadman drew a comparison to Benavidez's outing against Morel, noting that Opetaia brings even more size and a little more polish to the table. He didn't downplay the challenge of closing that physical gap against a fighter of that caliber.
Opetaia is bigger than Morel and he's a little better.
A little better, huh?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit better than Morel.
Okay.
Yep. Not a lot, but I think he's a little better. And he's 25 pounds bigger.
Yeah. I see the size. For sure. So, all right. Now, David say, you said that he'll be successful with Bivol. If successful with Bivol, better beef, does that put him in that top of the line? Like, when we talk about maybe getting into...
Benavidez wants Canelo. Opetaia wants Benavidez. And everyone seems to be pointing fingers while the biggest fights in the sport keep drifting further out of reach. Who do you think is really ducking whom? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want to stay ahead of every twist in this saga, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this story is far from over.